stop me. I'm all the way up. All the way up. I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up.
Believe it, and I started to look, and it's because I'm accidentally doing what she's telling me to do when I do the posts, and obviously she's doing the rest that's, you know, making sure she follows that same thing. So anyway, we can't be on here much longer, folks. 2 more questions and we're shutting her down. Share this out. Share it out.
Frank Estrada asked a question about building your personal page versus your business page.
Yeah, you should always build your business page, and that what you have to do, and this is a really great tip. This is like gold. So share this out because this is gold for everybody who follows you too. I don't tell this to a lot of people. I'm going to tell you right now. Facebook has a really cool feature where actually if you build your personal page to 5,000 followers, you can convert it into a public page, which will convert most of those 500 friends over to fans for your page. So build your personal page first, max it out at the 5,000, and then you're going to be able, you know, you can give me a text or a call or a message or something like that, and I'll let you know how to change that over into a public page. It's totally free to do on Facebook.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I'm not the expert, but I use my personal page for people that I personally know. So I didn't do that.
Yep.
I started a fan page or a public figure page,
Yep.
and then I just interact and tweet and mess with people there.
You want to end up at the public figure page, but if you grow your personal page to the 5,000 first and max it out,
But I
then
don't know.
the cool
I don't
thing,
have 5,000 friends.
I know you can't now because you already started.
Nor
it.
do I want to see 5,000 people
Yeah.
on my feed.
Well, you
I
just
want a personal page to be personal.
Yeah.
And then I want the business page to be business. So the fan page, the Real Bradley fan page, it's still me. I still post things that are personal on it, but I have 50-some thousand fans on that, and I have maybe 200 or 300 on my personal.
Yep.
And I don't want 5,000 on
Yep.
my personal.
But if you do want
you're
5,000,
limited. Well, you're limited
Yeah.
on the personal. If you max out your personal, then people go to friend you
Yeah.
can't accept them. So you're limited with the personal page. Why wouldn't they just build their business so there's no limit?
Yeah, because then you convert it to a public page, and then you start off with a 5,000. That's the point.
Now see, with these advanced tips, I'd probably have 550,000. And with your help sharing this out, I might get another 5,000 just today.
Yeah, message me if you have any questions. I'll help you out.
Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. All the way up. I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up.
And what do you think about debt? Like people always say, don't get into debt. I know Dave Ramsey talks about don't get into debt. That one girl,
Uncle Dave.
Susie
Orman.
Yeah, Susie Orman says don't get into debt. Now, quite frankly, I'm the opposite. Now, I might be naive, but like I like debt. I like to leverage it. So like if someone said, hey, I'll loan you $30 million, I'll borrow $30 million if you want to hand it to me, and I'll do something with it. I'll make $60 million, give you $30 million back, and make money with your money. What do you think about debt?
I think consumer debt is bad. So when Dave is going and saying debt is dumb, Dave's dumb. Because consumer debt is bad. But debt
what's the difference between consumer
credit
debt?
card debt, because you have to finance your hair, or you got to finance your Taco Bell. Car loans are generally bad.
What if you pay your bill every month?
Well, it's better to save up that money and pay cash for your vehicle than it is to go out and lease a car and get the cheapest thing you can get, because that's all you can afford. But debt is good to build your business. Business debt can be great. You can leverage that. But if you're just going out, you want to go on vacation and you use your credit card to pay for that, that's dumb. You shouldn't be paying 22% interest on going on vacation. I have clients that come to me that they're literally financing Taco Bell for 22 years because they're not paying off their credit card, they're paying the minimum. And they go in, they swipe that card for their Burrito Supreme, and now 20 years later, they're still paying on it.
Yeah.
Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. All the way up. I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up.
You can't just go through life thinking. You got to think about what you're going to think about before you think about it. Think about that.
Well, that's what I was about to ask, is how would they get in the habit or be able to practice the ability to not think about the wrong things?
Yeah.
Most people will talk about, think about this and do this, but sometimes you have to think about what not to think about.
Right.
Like,
And
how
that's
do you
hard.
do that?
And try not thinking about something. right?
Exercise. Are there any
Exactly.
exercises?
It's a very simple process. It's called the upside of fear. And fear is an acronym for focus, emotional commitment, action, responsibility, right? Focus, you got to get clear on what you want. What do you want, right? There's 3 important areas of your life: your money, your relationships, and your health. Think about it. Your money is your professional life, right? Your financial security, your business, your sales, whatever. Your relationships are your family, your friends, your community, those types of things. And your health is your mental, spiritual, and physical health. What do you want in each of those areas? What do you want financially? Synthesize it down to one thing, right? What do you want in your relationships? Maybe you want to be a better husband, a better father, a better mother, whatever it is. What do you want in your health? Get clear on specifically what you want. Think and Grow Rich was one of my favorite books. I'm sure you've read it 100 times. And
Coincidentally, I have.
yeah, it's probably a part of the reason that you're successful, because you have the right mindset, right?
Right.
It's not just what you do, it's what you think and what you do. Well, in that book, in Think and Grow Rich, he outlines 17 principles. But the very first principle he outlines on page 1 of the book is what he calls a definite purpose, right? You got to be specific about what you want. What do you want in your money, your relationships, your health? Then an obvious question has to be asked. What do I need to do to get the things I want, right? And here's the key: you got to keep it simple. You've got to keep it simple. What 1 or 2 things, if you did every single day, would give you the thing you want in your money? What 1 or 2 things could you do every single day to give you the thing you want in your relationship? Not 10 things, not 100 things. What 1 or 2 things could you do every day to hit your finance? That is the key of figuring out what those simple things are. You've all heard of the Pareto principle, right? 80-20 rule. 80% of your results comes from 20% of your efforts. What are those 20% of efforts? What 1 or 2 things could you do every single day? So focus is figuring out, what do I want and what do I have to do? The second step, emotional commitment. You got to get deeply emotionally committed. In fact, the second principle Napoleon Hill talked about was a burning desire, right? I call it an emotional commitment. You got to get deeply emotionally committed. How do you do that? Very simple. You write it down, right? It's what I call a prosperity plan. You write down the 5 or 6 things you want and 1 or 2 things under each one of them that you need to do every single day. You write it down in simple present current tense, and that becomes your plan for your key priorities in life. Then, to get deeply emotionally committed, we engage in what I call a quiet time ritual. It's 10 to 15 minutes a day, simply reviewing that plan, imagining what it's going to be like to have those things. Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich talked about you have to imagine yourself already in possession of these things, right? So you have to read that list and get completely absorbed in it, right? And what that does accomplishes 2 things. Number 1, it teaches us one of the most important lessons that successful people will teach us, and that is you have to live in the present moment, right? There's 3 dimensions of time: past, present, and future. Successful people spend most of their time in the present moment, building their business, building their relationships, doing whatever, right? Where do the losers spend their time? Think about the biggest loser you know in your life.
Past.
They're always bitching about the past, right? I hope that edit that out or something,
Yep.
right? They're always complaining about the past, right? The ex-wife, the bad boss, the bankruptcy, the foreclosure, the divorce, whatever. They spend an inordinate amount of time worrying about these things. Successful people live in the present moment. And so what happens as you begin to read that prosperity plan, you get completely absorbed in that present moment for those 10 to 15 minutes. Then when you're finished with that, when you start thinking about the past again, all those regrets, you realize how much they're draining the life out of you, right? So the prosperity plan, the quiet time ritual, helps you to learn to live in the present moment. It also does another very important thing, which is we don't have time to go into neurology, but it literally changes the neural connectors in your brain to where these new things become the expectation, right? So now I do my quiet time ritual, I visualize these things, I imagine these things, and now I go out and I take action, the third step, because nothing happens till we take action. Will Rogers said, even if you're on the right path in life, you'll get run over if you just sit there. We have to take consistent action towards the things we want. But here's the beautiful part. Mother Nature helps us out so much with this concept of cognitive dissonance. Dissonance is anxiety when we don't do something we said we would do. So if I tell you I'm going to pick you up at the mall at 3 o'clock and then I don't do it, I look down at my watch, I feel anxiety, like, oh, I forgot to pick up Brad, right? That's called dissonance, and it drives human behavior, because when I feel that dissonance, what am I going to do? I'm going to turn the car around, I'm going to call you, I'm going to do something to get back into a state of resonance, because that's our natural state. We don't want to be in this state of anxiety. So think about that, then think about this. You get up in the morning, you read your prosperity plan. Let's say on there, you say that I'm running a half marathon, I eat only healthy and nutritious foods. And you visualize yourself finishing that marathon, you visualize yourself exercising, eating healthy, and then that afternoon you find yourself at a fast food joint with a double bacon cheeseburger going down the pie hole, right? What do you think you're going to feel? Dissonance. Because you told yourself this morning that you're going to do a different thing. And so what happens? How do you get rid of the dissonance? You got to start doing the thing you said you would do. So it's the ultimate in personal responsibility. It starts guiding our behaviors, and it keeps us in check, and it makes sure that our daily activities are consistent with our main 3 priorities, our financial, relationship, and health priorities. If you start doing all the things you know you should do every day that are consistent with your major priorities, what are you going to get? You're going to get the right results, because you can't do the right things and accidentally produce the wrong results. People say that they do that as a justification, right? Think about the biggest loser again that you know in your life, right? Relationships are in shambles, he's in financial trouble and can't find a job, and he's got all kind of health problems, and you go and you say, what are you doing? And he'll say, I'm doing all the right stuff. No, you're not. If you're doing all the right stuff, you wouldn't be getting the wrong results. So we got to take consistent action, but cognitive dissonance, kind of that Mother Nature part of us, will drive those things. But here's the thing to be careful of, because there's another way to get rid of dissonance, and that is to tear up the plan. Throw the plan away. Never do it in the first place. Never hold yourself accountable. Now you find yourself eating a cheeseburger, what happens?
Nothing.
Nothing. There's no accountability.
Yeah.
Right? It's such a simple process. I got to tell you something, Brad. When The Power of Consistency came out, it hit New York Times #5 and Wall Street Journal #2. I get a phone call from a guy named Ed Nottingham. He's a neuroscientist, a PhD, and a clinical psychologist. He works for a Fortune 20 company. He asked me not to say the name of the company because they get real crazy about that. But he works with this international company, Fortune 20 company, teaching all their people the mindset. He calls me up and he says to me, Mr. Long, this book is the simplest explanation of the neuroscience behind success and the principles that are the underpinnings of rational emotive behavior therapy I've ever read in my life, right? And I said, there's a name for this? I mean, it's just all common sense, right?
I would have said, huh?
And that's kind of what I said, yeah. Anyway, they become a client. I can't say who they are because they're very picky about that kind of stuff. Not everybody wants to admit that they're turning to me for advice. Imagine that situation, right? All of my clients.
The best advice comes from experience.
Exactly. It was funny. I was on my way over here, and the cab driver picked me up at the hotel, and he said, what are you doing here? I said, well, I was just speaking to a large manufacturing group, and I told him I was coming over to meet with you and to meet with David Delgado. And he said, so what do you do for that? I said, well, I write books. I speak to sales groups and business groups. He says, what kind of degree do you have to do that? I said, a degree from the School of Hard Knocks, right? Because that's where it came from. It's the experience. By the way, the R in the fear process is just responsibility, personal responsibility. Understanding that we're responsible for our choices, and our choices determine our outcomes, not our problems, right? The bad news is everybody has problems. The good news is your problems don't define your life. Your decisions about your problems define your life. I mean, you can take a really bad problem. Let's say, for example, this is a really bad problem. You're 40 years old, you're living in a homeless shelter, you've got a 9th grade education, and you're a 3-time convicted felon. That's kind of and you're broke, penniless, right? I got a $100 check when I walked out of the penitentiary. That's what they give you in Colorado.
The odds makers in Vegas would not give you very good odds.
Yeah. But that was the nature of the problem. But my life today is a life of prosperity and success and honor and integrity and wealth. It's unbelievable. But none of that, it's not because of my problem. It's because I made different decisions about my problems.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, it's funny, if you're listening and you haven't shared this already, Ken, how many people are sharing? We got Sharon? There's a lot of people. You guys got to share this out. You got to get people on this stream, because again, a lot of times people are too embarrassed or ashamed or egotistical to talk about the facts. So you may not even know people are having problems. Let them see this in their own home at their own time. Share this out. But you know what's funny is I'm sitting here watching this, or I'm making notes, by the way. And see, this is why people always ask, damn, Brad, how you get so cool? Well, this is why, because I get access to
Just
people.
about got me water through the nose on that one. Warn me next time.
I get access to people like this where I'm sitting here taking notes. I mean, these guys have never seen me be so quiet, especially on a Facebook Live.
Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. All the way up. I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up.
What if someone lied